back to another Dolphin Computer Service video. We're back here on the interwebs doing our thing here, showing you everything, all the different types of connectors that we use on the computer, so you're more familiarized when you have to look at your computer or you need something to have us look at. And today we're going to be, it's somewhat of a continuation about connectors here. Last week we talked about the connectors on our monitor and our graphics card, and now we're talking about the connectors on our computer itself, the famous USB, the Universal Serial Bus. So let's get a little backstory here on the Universal Serial Bus. So all started back in 1996. Came out with USB 1.0, which is this white one here. So all USBs are color-coded. USB 1 is white, USB 2.0 is black, USB 3.0 is blue. You might see some other colors, like you might see an orange, you might see a red. Those signify different things. Like one is, like the red one is for charging, is when the computer is asleep, so the computer can completely off, and it will still charge a device or power the device that it's connected to. The orange one, I don't remember off the top of my head, but there's nothing really special about it. It's something similar to the red one. But these are the most common colors you're going to see, so that's what I'm going to stick here on this video for. So USB stands short for Universal Serial Bus, and the reason why we made it was so we can connect multiple devices using different types of computers. So like you plug in your desktop to a cell phone, your cell phone to a camera, your camera to a PDA, your PDA to a mass storage device like a flash drive, all those kind of things. So USB 1.0 had a max speed of 1.56 megabits per second, more than enough to transfer, Word document, PDF, maybe a small photo if you took it on like a PDA back in the early 2000s, more than capable of that. So a few years later in 2000, we came out with USB 2.0, which will normally have this black color. So normally in 2000, we call this the high-speed USB. So with high-speed USB, we bump up the speed to 480 megabits per second. So we basically like tenfolded over the original 1.56. So now with that, we can actually transfer larger files faster and do more things with it than we normally could otherwise do, besides connecting in your keyboard and your mouse. So now we got USB 3.0, which is this blue one here. So USB 3.0 can do up to a maximum of 5 gigabits per second. So now we can actually transfer a whole movie in a few seconds, a full HD movie in a few seconds. It also allows us to do more things, such as reading and writing large amounts of files on an external drive without really hurting performance. USB 3.0 came out in 2008. 3.0 also allows us to do half duplex and full duplex. So the original 2.0 was only half duplex. So to sum that up, imagine talking on a walkie-talkie to someone where you have to press a button, press and hold the button, talk, and then let go, and then wait for someone else to do the same thing so they can talk to us. That's half duplex. A full duplex is like your cell phone. You both can talk at the same time. You don't have to hold any buttons. It just works. So with USB 3.0, there's actually more pins inside the actual USB. So not only can we send more data, we could also send more power to it. So now we can power, actual external hard drives. We can power higher powered phones that use more battery. We can even plug in a relatively inexpensive graphics card and power it off the USB port. So in 2017, 3.2 came out, revision 3.2 for USB, and we had a maximum of 10 gigabits per second. So we got a speed of almost half, even more. And 20 gigabits per second if we use the USB-C end. So over here is what the USB-C looks like. We're actually going to discuss later on in detail about the USB-C, because when USB-C came out, it kind of became convoluted. And if you don't believe me, here you go. Because USB-C can do all the way from even 1.0, it can do 2.0, all the way to the latest USB 4, which we'll talk about in a minute. And it really deserves its own video anyway, because you could either do Thunderbolt, you could do just charging, you could do USB 3, USB 2, and it really honestly deserves its own video. So keep your eyes peeled and like and subscribe to the channel to see that as soon as it comes out. And follow us on Facebook, because I always post, I always put a post up saying whenever we have a new video coming out. So now we have USB 4 that can do 40 gigabits per second. So now we're talking, being able to edit 4K movies off the external drive we have. So USB 3.4.0 correction can achieve that speed, the 40 gigabits per second, if the cable is less than 3 feet. If it's longer, the speed is slower, but it's still pretty fast. I believe you can, even at 10 feet, you could do 20 gigabits per second, if I remember correctly. So in order to have a USB 4, you have to have both ends in USB Type-C. So the reason why the others can't do it is because back when USB was created, it was designed to be, these ends were created on purpose. So we'll actually discuss that a little bit later, but this USB-B is called the printer port for a reason, because it was originally meant for printers. But the USB-A was known as the host, and the USB-B was known as the slave. So the reason why that is because you know which one is the controller and which one is to be controlled. So like a printer, the computer has to be able to tell the printer what to do in terms of like printing, or a lot of USB microphones use this. The computer has to be able to tell the microphone, hey, I need to start recording. That's basically why these ends are created. But now with USB-C, we can use not only the same end for the controller and the controllee, we could also reverse it, which means, because this is a reversible connector, which means no matter what orientation is in, it'll always work, quote unquote. Because again, with USB Type-C, sometimes depending on what side is facing up depends on whether you get 3.0 or 2.0. Again, this topic for USB-C deserves its own video, so again, stay tuned for that. So another thing with USB-C is we can deliver up to 100 watts of power. That means 20 volts and 5 amps. So we can power an entire display with just one connector, instead of having a separate power cable and a separate display cable, or even in some cases, depending on what connector you're using, a separate audio cable. We can now do everything in one cable. So all of these can deliver power and data at the same time, but you're only limited to 5 volts and 2 amps max. Whereas with USB-C, you get 20 volts and 5 amps, so you can actually power something with it. You can even power a graphics card, depending on the graphics card in some cases, with just the one cable. It's really convenient to use it because it simplifies everything. But again, it is a little bit convoluted, and USB 4 is supposed to solve all of that. USB Type-C is also Thunderbolt 3 at the same time. So again, as I'm kind of repeating myself, it deserves its own video, but it is actually a very good connector. A lot of modern Android smartphones have it. Even the iPad Pro tablets have it. Even the new iPad mini, believe it or not, has it. It's a nice way to simplify everything into one cable. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about the connectors themselves. So again, we're going to the Type B, which is the USB printer port, as it's normally called. Again, this is normally what is called slave, and then this one is actually called master. So the computer is usually the master, and the device, the peripheral you want to connect to, is normally called the slave. That's how it was termed back when USB was created. And now the lines are blurred because now, so with USB-C, it doesn't really matter which is which. The computer just automatically knows. But back in the day, the computer didn't know. So one way to tell what was the being controlled and what was the one controlling was by doing the ends. So USB-B, again, is mainly for printer ports. Some microphones have it as well. It can be used for many things. It's a form of connection that is mainly, to be controlled. There's a 3.0 version also. This is what the 3.0 version looks like. There's an extra nub up top that gives you extra pins to do the 3.0 speed. So one thing is, a 2.0 cable like this one will fit in the 3.0 port, but the 3.0 port will not fit in the 2.0 port. So they're somewhat compatible and they're somewhat incompatible. So normally just get the cable that it comes with and you'll be fine. So now we got here the mini USB and the micro USB. So the micro and the mini, believe it or not, are somewhat the same thing, just with a different connector. They perform the same function. So the reason why we started off with mini here, and the reason why is because devices were getting smaller. If you had an old school BlackBerry back in the day, chances are with the original, trackball instead of the track mouse pad that it had, chances are it had this connector on it. And again, you saw this on a lot of devices such as cameras, PDAs from the early to mid 2000s. That's what you normally saw. And then as devices got even smaller, like your Motorola Razr Droid, going from the original Razr flip phone to the Razr Droid, went to the USB micro again to accommodate the increasingly shrinking and thinning of devices and smartphones and other aspects of life. This is the most common micro USB, the most common USB you'll see out there. A lot of devices still use it. A lot of devices are still made with it, but it's gradually being phased out. And this is what the 3.0 version looks like. Again, it's the 2.0 with an extra nub on the side to accommodate the pins for power. You might see some older Galaxies with that. Like I think a Galaxy S5 has that type of connector on it. But the same thing goes with the Type B. The 2.0 can fit in the 3.0 port, but not vice versa. So that's the gist of the more common types of USBs that are found on computers and devices that I wanted to show you guys. And thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you all have a good day.